Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to our speaker for today, Encik Kabir Muhammad. Encik Kabir Ahmad, I'm sorry. To everyone here who has joined us, welcome. I'm Lawrence. It's my pleasure to be a moderator for the session today. First, allow me to briefly introduce to you the intent of the webinar today. The webinar is a part of a webinar series focusing on Malaysia global competitiveness, ranking in how we as a country manage the totality of our competencies to increase prosperity. The global competitiveness ranking is evaluated and reported every year by international organizations. One of these organizations is IMD. IMD is a private business education school in Switzerland, short for International Institute for Management Development. It is not a university. It publishes this performance in their World Competitiveness Yearbook every year since 1989. The yearbook benchmarks the performance of 63 countries based on 255 criteria, measuring different dimensions of competitiveness. It uses two types of data to compare countries. Two-thirds of the data is hard statistical data, which they collected from international or national sources. And one-third of the survey data is collected from representatives from different industries, what they call in executive opinion survey. Yeah. In the recent World Competitiveness Yearbook 2020, our Malaysia's competitiveness ranking has dropped 5 positions since last year to 27th. Sure. So imagine this.
40 juta aku rasanya itu. Ke 4 juta, tak ingat lah macam tu lah. Tapi itulah mungkin yang nak kena buat, nak kena discuss.
I think I think your audio is on.
Dengan yang concern lah untuk projek ni.
Yeah, man. I think I'll continue. I hope Adaha can hear me. I think your audio is on, Adaha. Yeah. Okay, we're talking about the ranking. We dropped from 2019 to 27 this year, so it's ranked 27 out of 63 countries, right? So this rank of 27 is the lowest for Malaysia in the past 5 years. Now, the comparison between countries, there are 4 categories of factors. IMD is comparing the countries. The 4 factors are economic performance, government efficiency, business efficiency, and infrastructure. Today, we are honored to have Encik Kabir sharing this topic with us on new business density. Now, new business density is one of the criteria in a factor called government efficiency. Now, within this factor, there's a sub-factor called business legislation, measuring the density of new businesses in Malaysia. Encik Kabir will be sharing with us the highlights and issues of our current IMD ranking of new business density. He will recommend improvement plans to help Malaysia increase our future ranking. Now, let me first introduce our esteemed speaker before handling the audio over to him. Encik Kabir Ahmad Muhammad Jamil is a true professional with many accolades and awards, also titles. He started his career with the Ministry of Science and Technology before joining Malaysia Productivity Corporation. At the National Productivity Corporation, then he has held different positions as a manager, as a consultant in various departments and divisions before promoted to a director in the Smart Regulation Division. He has conducted numerous trainings for the public and private sectors, particularly service industries, in addition to consultancy projects. He also taught at the National University of Malaysia and Open University, a master's degree program on Six Sigma and Total Quality Management. This was not only in Malaysia. On the international scene, Encik Kabir is a renowned speaker who has assisted productivity organizations in many countries. Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Pakistan, Mongolia, just to quote a few. He is a Lean and Six Sigma guru and also a chief expert practitioner, like the highest rank or principal in Lean and Six Sigma and productivity. This makes him busy to be chief consultant in national transformational projects and chief judge in innovative creative circles. And also in conventions. You can catch up with his ideas, for he has authored many articles and books. He's now the principal consultant and MD of Kabir Consulting Group. With that, let me hand over the audio to Encik Kabir, Ahmad Muhammad Jamil. Over to you, Encik Kabir.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. And thank you so much, Lawrence, for your elaborate introduction about myself. And thank you for being here today with us. And I would like to say thank you. Yeah, thank you for the audience outside there who are actually listening to me today this morning. I would like to say welcome. And I would like to take this opportunity also to thank the management of MPC for inviting me to share my thought on the subject matter or on the issue or on the criteria itself. And especially my thanks goes to Jamil for actually appointing me earlier to be one of the consultant to undertake this initiative on studying the criteria, and as I mentioned by Lawrence earlier. So as all of us know, WCY have been undertake initiative to rank country to country for every year and putting where we are today. And as mentioned by Lawrence, we are not doing that well for this year, 27. And because of this issue and this effort of, I would like to commend MPC for this effort. For previous years, many of us are with MPC, and when we receive the IMD result and WCY report, and we just pick it up and share the tabulations of where we are. But starting, I think this year with the group of taking a step further to study some of the indicator or the criteria that is not doing well. So one of those indicators that Malaysia not performing well is business density, and I was entrusted earlier to study this and probably suggest some action plan. So I'm going to walk through and on this new business density and what are these all about, and then maybe we can look into it. What is it linked to? If we look at the ranking initiative that undertaken by WCY, WEF, and even World Bank, majority of this initiative that take is to assess the national or nation competitiveness level. So know that, this new business density is also an indicator that should reflect the impact of regulatory, politicals, and the macroeconomic institutional scenario in Malaysia. So with this reflection, supposed to be a direct link to new business density. So if you look at it, a new business and density mainly about the new entry, the new company that been started within that particular year. So how many numbers of a company, a new company registered, and so on. So if the situation in the country at the time was not very good, or maybe the situation in the country, have a regulatory requirement that complicated, somehow or other, this will bring the number low. So that's why this indicator become very crucial, very important to be used as an indicator to assess the competitiveness level of the nations. The way they do it, this indicator, you know, they are basically took the number of a newly registered corporation or company or firms per working age. I mean, within the year, what is the number of company that registered, and you know, they divide by, you know, because they consider it's a distribution among 1,000 working age people, which is between, you know, that they took the working age people as 15 to 64. If you go to our Department of Statistics, they have some indications, some figures on, you know, the working age 15 to 64 figures for every year, what is the population like, and so on. The World Bank is of doing business every year, coming out with a report, and they use this measurement as to measure the new business density, and only apply for company with limited liability. Again, I will go in later on what is a limited liability companies actually. Here, as I said, the data is expected to show us the trend in new creation of a firm across the country, and this is also very much again relate between, you know, entrepreneurships and the business environment. So this scenario of new business density is more or less is a measurement of, you know, how you know, eager is the people in Malaysia actually starting a business in Malaysia. How, you know, because what reflection here is that if the situation is not good, nobody want to open a new business or new company for that matter. In Malaysia, if you look at it, the ownership, if you have a business ownership in Malaysia, we have about, you know, 5 category here. First category, I think most of us are known this, what we call it as a sole proprietorship, and then another one we call it a partnership. These basically the enterprise, what we call it as an enterprise status. And if you look at it, it's fall under Registration of Business Act 1956. And another 3 that which are actually included in the study is the companies, the public limited company, and then another one we have a limited liability partnership. This is a new category that created by the SSM back in 2012. So based on this ownership structure in Malaysia, the data that the World Bank are using is only applied to the one that I put in the bracket, which is actually company and company limited, public limited company, and also limited liability partnership. So the proprietorship, sole proprietorship, then and the partnership is not included. All right, how are we doing actually? If we look at it clearly one by one, let me walk to you on first on the ranking, and then we will look at the value that we are scored. If you look at, I decided to take a 10 years ranking and follow through from 2010 until 2020. And if you can see, our ranking are not changing very much. We actually, I would say we started where at number 37 you know, and then slowly we are dropping to in 2020 we are ranked at number 42. And you can see there's a gap there. In 2019 there's a gap there, and both in terms of the value, in terms of ranking. These are not undertaken in 2019. There is no, I will explain to you that the initiative was, you know, the study by the World Bank under the entrepreneurship survey was stopped back in June 2019, if I'm not mistaken, in June 2019. And that's one of the reasons why you don't see a score for that particular year. However, on 2020, they are still do some calculation for 2020, and however, they are using data for 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So they are, the source of data is still the same based on 2018. However, our rank are not changing. Our rank are getting worse actually. So if we look at it, we are number 42. And if you look at the score, the value that we are getting, nothing much change also. We have fluctuate here and there, but still within the number of 2 point something and so on. So our score at 2020 is about 2.4. And the last one, 2018, we are 2.37. So basically, if you look at it, this is what I predict only, because 2019 also maybe for that particular year, also the SSM have coming out with a new format of calculations of you know, changing the I would say the number, registration number of company to 12 digit. So maybe there's some disruptions of information flow, because most of the data, my gut feeling telling me that the World Bank are getting it from the you know, declared or open source data from the websites and so on of SSM, and of course from Department of Statistics. So basically, if you look at it, this indicator showing us that we are not good. If you compare, let's compare with the other country. If you look at those top country in the world, they are, you know, if you look at these Hong Kong, you look at the Switzerland, you look at even Singapore for that matter, are higher than us. And Malaysia is at 42, and we are our score at 2.4. And I do observe some kind of trend here. From the top 20 country that in the list in the tabulation in front of us now, you can see that I would say those countries that have less population, the tendency to score higher as compared to those countries that have a bigger number of population. So if you look at it, I would say that those who have a population below 20,000, more likely in this case, are going to score a higher figure in terms of the value. Maybe because of going to be a less you know, distribution among when we calculate later on. So with the exceptions of Australia, South Africa, and United Kingdom. So for me, I use this United Kingdom, Australia, maybe South Africa as a benchmark. So if you want to study from Malaysia, they are top ranked there, but there are those countries who are, you know, have a bigger population as compared to the others. So they must be doing something right along the way that to still manage to raise the new business entry into into practice within that particular year. Where does WCY got this source of data? WCY actually collected the information and the figures that they use is the registered, as I said earlier, new business per 1,000 people aged between 15 to 64. These are the measurement that used by WCY, and they got it actually from the World Bank. And the World Bank have, as I earlier said, entrepreneurship survey. And from this entrepreneurship survey, they go around submitting the survey everywhere to country SSM, the agency that are responsible for registration of the company. And in the case of Malaysia is SSM. So that's the reason why I think the information that they capture through the entrepreneurship survey is they come from the SSM and also come from Department of Statistics. So this is a scenario of data that it was collected by so-called WCY. And let's look into the agency or regulators that I would say have some say in this case, some influence in terms of new business entity. And if you look at data provider here is provided by the, of course, earlier is KPD and HEP. This because SSM fall under the Kementerian Domestic Trade, yeah. And that's the reason why I put the ministry there, and then we have a Department of Statistics, and some of the I put in the act, and that falls under the Department of Statistics is the data about the requirement about the act about registration of a company and so on. So when I look into the acts requirements and things like that, I do not find any issue about the acts that confine the new, the numbers of business and new business entry, but more of the process of registration of the new company. And we will talk about this later. And then we have the other main authority that I put here purposely, the Ministry of Entrepreneur Development and Cooperative, which is the new Ministry of MEDEC, SME Corp, MIDA, Penjana, even Tekun, for those any agency that is responsible for development of entrepreneurship in the country. So basically, these are the main agency that are responsible, I would say, have some influence into, the status of a new business density criteria. So based on the criteria they use, so we can divide into two source main data. One is the population, and the other one in terms of the registration of the limited liability company in Malaysia. So if you look at it, how are you going to change population age? Nothing much you can do for that. We cannot change we cannot maneuver the populations at the moment. Even if we can, it's going to take a long time. So taking into account the number of newly registered limited liability company in Malaysia, this is the only one that we can change. And if we can change this, hopefully we can change our ranking. And taking into how are they calculate the ranking, I went through, so I go and collect the data. Earlier on, I was not very sure what data they use and what are the figures that they collected and so on. So we went around. So I went to the websites of SSM. I went to the website of Department of Statistics to collect some information here and there. And of course, we check on the World Bank open source statistic. If you look at it, the one that I have on the left is the key statistical information for 2018. And the SSM have their own annual report every year. And they part is in the website, their own website. So I go to the website and collect this statistical information 2018, and I do the calculation. And if you look at it, the figures that you have it here, like 47 for companies, 47,292 is the figures that given in 2018. And then they have another numbers of, what they call it, limited liability, LLP. It's also about 4,000, excuse me for my vision, 4,300, if I'm not mistaken. These are the figures that if you combine both of these figures, you actually got 51,722. And there is a, if you look at the figures on the enterprise, you can see that few 100,000 was registered for the year. So this figure are not used. So if I going to open up my company, if I go on and they just register it under a partnership scenario, then it won't be take as World Bank won't take this as a figures if somebody open up a new company in Malaysia. They are only interested on the limited liability, which is actually on Sdn Bhd. Remember I said Sdn Bhd and Bhd company, which is on company status, and then limited liability is a new one. So that's why the SSM put down there under limited liability. And this information becoming something that I would say maybe later on we will talk about this more. And the figures we got now is 51,722. So I just try to follow the same calculation also. I use go back to the Statistical Information 2017. I detail out and collect the number and for 2017, and I do the same calculation. So if you look on the right side below the they call it on my slide here, I do the calculation for company registered under Sdn Bhd and Bhd for, let's take 2018, 47,292, and then we have a limited liability 4,430, and then we plus that we become 51,722. And then I go and check the population age, working population age 15 to 64, and the figures was given by the what do you call it on the website of the Department of Statistics. Is 21,859,000, and for the year of 2017 is about 31,500 something. So I do the calculation, using the formula that I managed to capture. I got the figures at 2.42, and I got 2.37 for 2018. Exact figure as what calculated by the World Bank. This is how they use the calculation. So they plus it together, become 51,000, and then divide. How do you calculate it? That 51,000, the number of newly registered company, times by 1,000, and then divide by the population age of 15 to 64, which is actually we got about 21,000, in this case 859. So I divide this 2, and then I get the figures are 2.37. This is our ranking for the year of 2018. The columns or the bar chart that you look on the right is basically the one that I capture from World Bank source with data, and you can see that they are also using the exact figure, the same figure that I just tabulated earlier. So now the new business density, if you look at it, as I said earlier, is actually to reflect the situation of the country. So it reflects the business environment for that matter. It reflects, low cost and time to register a company. So the World Bank, say that we have a better business environment, which is, having a lower cost and very fast to register a business, it will promote entrepreneurship. So the key here, the key factors here is actually entrepreneurship. So we also find, they say that the business entry and density rate are an indicator of economic development and growth. So basically, we were talking about, if you have a good environment, a business environment, somehow or other, this indicator will be bigger. So they were also saying that, ease of doing business, if specifically ease of doing business and political corruption is a main significant indicators of a total new business registration in the country. So this is a direct link between the situation, the way that the business environment in Malaysia, and it will link directly to how people want to register the company or not. Because if it become, something that is very difficult for us to register, and then nobody want to go for it. Okay, up to here, I want to pause a little bit. Maybe I will go to Lawrence. Maybe you have, if you have any other question first, then let's discuss about this first. Then before we actually go into.
Okay. All right. Okay, for the audience who are listening in, I think you can see we are taking pauses here to get questions. If you have any questions, please start to send it in. But there was a very comprehensive coverage of how you calculated the figure in Kabir. Very interesting. This was not stated anyway, but it's based on an investigation, right? How that figure was. Okay. It's very interesting.
The figures earlier, when I do the investigation, I went to SSM and have some discussion with them, because they are the main source of provider of data, how the World Bank calculated this. Nobody are actually aware about the calculation and the methodology they use. And I think I dig further. I even contact the World Bank people in Sasana Kijang, talking to them about how they calculate the figures and so on. Finally, I went to many of those, I think, the open source data that the World Bank have, and I was lucky. I mean, I got some figures that, the one that I got 51,722, and it clicked me that this is the figure that used by the World Bank. But where does it come from? So we went back and collect the data and see the data, and wow, it's exactly the same figures as what it used. So I was a bit lucky.
Yeah, it was like spot on. How you got to the exact number the IMD is using. But to look at that number and to interpret it with a new light, now that we know what it means, it does look a bit small. What do you think? it kind of like dawned to me that we are measuring against 1,000 inhibitor, like 1,000 people. How many new businesses are coming out? It's only 2 point something. It's not even 3. Because based on what I know, the feeling is higher than that.
Because you see, that's why I said if you look at the indicator, if you compare to countries like Hong Kong, Malaysia, country, if you look at the population is smaller. So if you take any indicators, I mean, let's say you have maybe like in our country now we have let's say for 2018 we have 51,000. Let's say 51,000 divided by 6 million Singaporean. Let's say the ranking will be bigger. I mean, but for our case, 51,000 divided by 21 million, and then of course time by 1,000. You can see that's why we got a very small number. I'm not saying that the country like Singapore and Singapore are actually better off than us in terms because of their situation of population number. No, but they one thing I impressed about Singapore and Hong Kong is that they managed to maintain the numbers. You see, they even though with a small number of population, the number of registered company in the country is still bigger. And I would say that maybe this is due to more foreign company that are coming on and register there, as compared to us in Malaysia, and many of it is actually based on Malaysia. So that's why Malaysian-based company, and that's probably the reason. If you can see, our ranking is not as good as favorable as in Hong Kong and in Singapore. It's very small number, 2 point something. I mean, I also when I look at it, I said we are 42 out of 63 countries. We are not good. We are on the
median. Based on what I know, we actually had quite a lot of new startups. Like even in 2019, I read in the statistics, it says for every 18 companies who close down, there are a lot of new business closed down. I mean, probably there is another statistic that we should look at to complement the startup. For every 18 that is closed down, one new startup happens. So it's like out of what 82,000-ish companies who were closed down last year, 4,500 new companies got out. So if you look at the statistics, it's like it's not 2.3 out of 1,000. The ratio doesn't seem to match up. That's why the feeling I said it doesn't like level up to that kind of number. Anyway,
yeah, I mean,
it's very interesting.
You see when startup company and if you look at the number that was in the annual reports of the SSM, figures of those sole proprietorships and the partnership is 100,000 a year.
I see.
If you look at it, and see the number there is bigger. If you take that number, and definitely it will be not 2 point, but it will be higher, because but the World Bank do not use that. I do not know. I mean, when my discussion and when I contacted them also, they give the reason because of this. We were saying that, I mean, this is a company that registered by Malaysia for that particular year. So why don't you include? They do not use that. They said throughout the other country also, because of under the definition of sole proprietorship and the partnership, the variety of the variation between country to country definition is very wide. So that's one of the reasons why they do not want to use the sole proprietorship and what do you call it, a partnership scenario as an indicator. They only want to use business orientation, which is on Sdn Berhad, LLP. Even myself also, when I formed the company also, I did not register to fall under Sdn Berhad. Because of many issues related to the requirements, like you have to put the requirement of the financial report, that you need to engage, the company secretary to do things. Of course, those are the reason. One or few reasons actually that make me decided not to register my company to be under the Sdn Berhad or as a or LLP. So I choose on to be partnerships or on the. So the tendency for us to decide that way is very great. So, and that's the reason why in Malaysia somehow or other the figures are not that big. I think. I mean, this is my personal opinion. So we need to make. Later we will discuss about it. We need to make it simpler maybe, and then so that more people would like to register under the Berhad or Sdn Berhad, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm sure World Bank is looking at the bigger objective of why the density has to be higher. Perhaps in the entrepreneurship, like what you just said, the mindset to actually be independent. So if the number is only including like Sdn Berhad or Berhad, it may not reflect the true picture, because the entrepreneurship spirit actually is much bigger than a number. Like what you've just gone through, perhaps you have just raised an issue why people don't go to Sdn Berhad.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I will talk about this later on, because
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I will proceed.
Okay, please continue.
Me searching for my. Okay. Sorry. Let me get. Okay. Something not right here. Hold on.
I can still see your screen on the findings and best practices. Is that what you're trying to show? Not yet, right? Or
all right, yeah. Okay, here. Okay. When I study those informations and data from and the scenario of what the feedback from the World Bank, I decided to come out with 4 suggestions, basically main suggestion for Malaysia to adopt, and then hopefully we can raise our ranking in the future. You see, one of the main criteria here that I mean, with due respect to SSM, when I look at the SSM and Department of Statistics, they are very passive, I would say, organization that only give the numbers. They are not the one who actually responsible in terms of the registrations, in terms of in terms of raising the number of people who are willing to register. They are basically just register a company in Malaysia. So I would say that if we all this while under Pemuda, under this category of doing business, ease of doing business, starting a business indicator, the organization that are responsible for is SSM. I'm having a different idea now. To me, is SSM have some part of it, but the main responsibility need to be changed. And I would say that we should be given the responsibility of this entrepreneurial development to a ministry that is responsible for it. And in this case, MEDEC. Why I say it? Because they are the one who are actually going to change the situations of, registered number of people that register in the company, as you said, the entrepreneurship development. So entrepreneurs here, instead of encouraging people, entrepreneurs to register as a partnership, as a sole proprietorship, and so on, maybe MEDEC can do something about it, because they are they are the one who are responsible for the development now. Especially now, you can see that they are coming out with the Dasar Keusahawanan National DKN 2030. It's one of the policy that established by MEDEC that to sort of drive the culture of entrepreneurship in the country. So here they can play the role. And if we give, all this while, organization like SME Corp, we just give a number of, KPI that for them to spend some our budget, utilization, blah, 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 number of training, blah, 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 and all those things, but without having the real impact figures, which is actually, if you ask me, this new criteria, the new business density indicator should be given to them, because this is the end result. After whatever you do, after whatever the ministry spend and develop, the result will be at the end of the day is the new entry that coming into the picture. So instead of being responsible in terms of how much money they spend, the utilizations of the budget given to them, I would suggest that we put another one indicators that responsibility is on MEDEC to be responsible in terms of the development of entrepreneurship, and at the end of the day, they are responsible for the new business density numbers. So instead of SSM, now we put back to MEDEC. This is my suggestion, because the policy, the driver, the initiative is actually coming from those agencies that are responsible on the entrepreneurship development. So new business density is not about registration alone. It's not about registration of company alone. It's about what drives them to register. So that's what I would like to suggest. If you look at it, why entrepreneurs? Is it the government need them? The entrepreneurs. This is the reason why I think this indicator reflects as the situation in the country, reflects the scenario of the country. Here, entrepreneurs are those people who actually like to discover a new market. They are the one who actually created the new customer that coming from their product, So if you can see somebody coming out with a new mixture of lotion or whatever it is, and selling out to the market, and these are actually normally created by this entrepreneur. So I strongly believe that here entrepreneurs is very crucial for the country, not just because they can earn them some income, earn them some revenue for them, but it's also for the society and country. So that's the reason why another issue that we think that entrepreneurs, why the government need them, is because they are the one who actually probably source of a new material, because of a new product that they have, for a new market that they created. They have to capture the new material to support it. So entrepreneurs are more likely to source this new material for their enterprise. If you look at this technology too, they are, most of the time, these entrepreneurs are very, I would say, savvy at technology. They are the one who actually probably started, taking advantage of the technology. I mean, I don't have to say to anybody nowadays, because we've been talking about selling some bakery or some, cake or some normally bakery product that we sell from the store. But nowadays, everybody are selling it on the online. My own daughter, while studying, but at the same time, she's also creating a new business through internet and selling, some product that she actually produce it. And of course, if you look at the coming out with a new brand, their own, way they're promoting it, the new innovation they come out. You don't look at brownies as just a brownies. Now brownies with different kind of mixture. And my daughter doing that and promote it through a new technology, through internet, and we got delivery, that people to send to those who requested for the product. So the technology, the availability there are actually mainly, I would say, will drive the entrepreneur to utilize this. And of course, employment, whether we like it or not, the employment scenario, without the entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurs is going to be a nightmare, because even though the numbers that they provide is smaller as compared to the company, but the numbers of entrepreneurs in the country is a lot. So then automatically, the more people being employed there. So I would say that this is some of the reason why the government need the entrepreneurs. So saying that, that's a reason why I believe that this indicator should be given to MEDAC and let them be responsible, let them be the one who actually drive the initiative, and then will be measured the success of their initiative through the number of new business entry in Malaysia. My suggestion number 2, again, remember when I said that World Bank mentions about the registration process is also crucial for this indicator to be good. So if you look at it now, I suggest in Malaysia, SSM in particular, KL City Hall, because of the study that given by the World Bank focusing on the City Hall initiative. PBTs, of course, we need to spread out the initiative to all throughout the country, and other regulators to benchmark Australia, United Kingdom, and review the current procedure of starting up a business. Whether we like it or not, there's a strong link between starting up a business and the number of company registered in Malaysia. So evidence suggests that, you see, the start a business are associated with increased number of newly registered firms. If you look at it, a report from 2020 with the, apart from France and Canada, we can strongly conclude that there is a positive relationship between criteria, startup, number of days, I mean how long it takes to start a company, and a new business entity. And let me show to you what I mean here. Even the World Bank also make some indication there, showing that those nation that have difficult requirement, difficult process, it will end up having a smaller number of like what Lauren just mentioned, about 2.4. I mean, in our case, for those who are easier to register, then automatically you are fall on the left side, and then the numbers are getting bigger. So this is come from a World Bank. This indicator, this table, this chart is come from the World Bank. They do the comparison between business entry and the business entity. You can see it, it's a direct link. And I am not happy with this, so I go further and I select actually 15 nations And I do make a comparison, the top 15 nations, but of course in this data that I put up here, it's not 15, I put only up to 8 countries as compare Malaysia to Malaysia. I just compare the what do you call it, the performance of the startup days for 2020 performance and number of new business density. So if you look at it, that New Zealand have the rank #1 in startup days. They have only 0.5 days. They take only 0.5 days to start a business in New Zealand. And no doubt they fall, and under new business density, they got #3 ranking. They got a score of 17.8 per thousand working age populations. So if you look at Hong Kong in the startup days process and ranking #2, and how much did they need? 1.5. And that's when we look at the new business density, they are #1, and their figures, if you look at it, is 28.8. So you can look further. #2 for Singapore, they took only 1.5 days to start a business, and no doubt they are scoring, they are fall under the #11 under the new business density, and they got score of 10. As compared to Malaysia, if you look at Malaysia, I mean, before we go that to Malaysia, let's look at the United Kingdom, because if you look at on the left, on the right side, the number of population that I put in, you can see that those who are, remember I mentioned earlier, below 20 million, those who have 5 million, those who have 7 million, of course, you know, it's easier. Probably it's easier to raise the numbers and I mean to have a simplified process, whatever it is. But I'd like to look at the UK. United Kingdom took about 4.5 days to start a business. So under this category, 4.5 days, the 4.5 days, they are #6 now. They managed to raise the number of score to 15.6, meaning that they have a lot of new business entry, because the population is much bigger than us, 66 million. So they managed to raise the number, very high number, I would say, and then they got a #6. Sorry, number 8. Yeah. As compared to Malaysia, look at Malaysia. This is the ranking that we got for startup day. Is our ranking is 51 out of 63. We got 51, and you look at the score. We took in Malaysia 17.5 days, whereas no doubt our score on the new business density, we got 41, number ranking number 41, and no doubt our score is 2.4. Based on what said by the World Bank here, I can prove that somehow, yes, it's true. These startup, these numbers are positively linked with the new business. So if we want to address, this is one of the areas that we need to address. If we want to increase the new business density, we need to make do with this. World Bank suggests that you know, you got to reform the regulations. We got to reform the process. So the first, they said a diagnostic tool. You know, you probably need to, you know, created the scenario that making that regulatory reform as the political agenda. So it just this initiative about reforming the process of registration or company registration is no longer just confined to KL alone. We should be doing as throughout Malaysia, so that everybody can enjoy and you know faster service in terms of registering your business. Registering your business is not just about go in and link and key in the company and so on, but it's also until you probably form a business, you have to open up a company, you have to open the outlet, and you create maybe from the outlet you need to get permission from PBTs, from the city hall, the requirement and so on. So of course you get to get a tax department approval and so on. So combining all this, what World Banks assess as 17.5 days. The World Bank suggests that we need to reform. We need to reform by looking at the bottleneck. We need to reform by looking at where actually our issue is, so that this initiative about making things easier for company to register, and then we need to go further, a little bit more, comparing ourselves to other nations. We need to compare ourselves to our other PBTs also. This initiative has been undertaken by MPC once to push organization or PBTs to improve their process. I think this is something that we need to do a revisit, maybe to look at again, how can we improve registrations of the company within the PBTs, who register the company in SSM and so on. So I do not know. I mean, to be honest, this initiative looked like something like have been, there for a very long time as a focus for Pemuda, but so far we see not much, I would say, great result from it. But I think maybe we need to look at it once again and seriously set up a new target. And for me, the new target should be 4.5 days for Malaysia. We should emulate UK. If UK can do the company registration within 4.5 days, why does it take Malaysia 17 days, 17.5 days to register? I don't know. I mean, I don't see this. And I go take a step to look at the client charter on DBKL. DBKL have a different segment of what they call it, indicators. The client charter that they set up to be 7 days, 14 to 30 days, and so on. Oh my goodness! I mean, if you look at these figures of 14 to to 30 days, can you imagine how are we going to compete with we are not talking about the process that registration have that take place in SSM. Then you go to the tax department, blah blah blah, and then go to PBTs. And in PBTs alone, the numbers is nightmare for me. And if we are taking this for whatever, of course they have a classification of criticals, risky company and so on and so on. But if you compare this to UK or even Singapore, my goodness, we are far away behind them. And if PBT cannot improve, if City Hall cannot improve, no way we can improve our ranking in terms of improving the startup days and automatically linked to the improving a new business density. That I've been critical about this on the City Hall. I've been critical about because we do make a study before, and we can see that there are many things that we can make it simpler, and things that we can learn from others. So I strongly suggest that why don't we emulate and look at what UK did or when Australia did, and just follow them and see how we can speed up our process. Number 3, suggestion number 3 is in terms of the IP, because if we talk about entrepreneur need product. When we talk about a product, the more new product coming into picture, then the more new company will be set up. So majority of the new idea, new product come from IPs, from the research that undertaken by government research organization and so on. I have a pleasure of going through these process of looking into IPs that are registered in Malaysia back in 4 or 5 years ago. And when we do that through Pemandu at the time, we see that out of 1,400 IPs that we have at the time, only 14 or 15 that are actually viable for commercial initiative. So majority of our research are not actually, I would say, commercially oriented. It's more of fundamental research for university and so on. I think that's what need to be changed. First, we need to change to link the commercial, the research of the university funded research center by the government should be actually addressing the commercial research. And when you have a commercial oriented research, then our finding need to have be make known, like what Australia did. Australia have some one platform where people can log in and link with their new result of the IPs, the result of the new research throughout the country. For Malaysia, what IPs that what research that done by university, maybe University Pertanian, only University Pertanian people know. If you're talking about UKM, maybe UKM, only UKM know. We have not linked with these people. So imagine how are these people, how are the entrepreneurs searching for the information if we can only have one platform that we can log in and we have access to all the information on IPs, on the research finding and so on, that they can take an idea and to make a business partnership with the research center. I think this is one of the mechanisms that will be encouraging, will encourage the new developments of new company because naturally the company, the entrepreneurs need the new product. So this product that coming from the new research finding is crucial to it. And let them know, let everybody know, create a platform that like what Australia did. Another, my fourth suggestion here is the entrepreneur. The entrepreneurship in Malaysia are considered to be when you are not be able to get any other job, then you probably decided to be an entrepreneur. I mean, even talking about my own nephew today, the same thing after cannot get an entry to a job market, and only now he decided, a couple of years back, he decided to venture into entrepreneurship and start a business, and today is doing very well because he didn't get the job from the government, he didn't get the job from the other organization, and it forced him to become a businessman. And thank goodness he's doing the right thing actually. So why not share this? Why not create this scenario from the schools days, from the when you a student go to the school, they are not thinking about being an engineer alone. They're not talking about being a doctor alone. Entrepreneur should be one of those options. Something that will drive the people in Malaysia. So I strongly believe that we should have a campaign. We should formulate. We should working with MOE. We should working with MOHE to create the so-called entrepreneurship as my #1 career options. So this scenario that we want to create is that so that the graduate of those students that are coming out from university are not thinking about just working in the organization, but they can create their own business. And by creating their own business, by having a new registration, then of course we'll raise the numbers of a new entry into this. again, and this time around, we should be encouraging company registration for those Berhad and Sendian Berhad, or maybe LLP in this scenario. We should encourage more people to register there rather than under SMP, sole proprietorships and partnership scenario. So of course, let them know, because of the limitation of company partnership as SMP scenario. We should be looking into more in terms of wider, bigger horizon in the Sendirian Berhad and Berhad and LLP scenario. So I would like to see that, you know, this is a major thing to change that need years of development. But I think if we want to develop this, we want to raise our numbers, this is the option that we need to do. And I mean, with due respect, also, I look at UK. When UK was created, you know, I was searching, I mean, what are those initiatives that make UK so good about why people want to, you know, start a business in UK. And I come up with one program called UK Open for Business, campaign, program, Open for Business program. That Open for Business program is something like Matrade and agency promotional agency should follow. They make it things, you know, set up a company in UK, but they help the company to market in Europe. They help the company in UK to penetrate in Europe, so that you know, you got a bigger market there, not just about in Malaysia. Like in our case, we start up a company just for a market in Malaysia, and if we want to do, we have to do ourselves. If we want to market to Thailand or even, we have to do ourselves. But in UK, they are actually, you know, it's that not just about doing exhibition, they are actually going more than that, more of doing, not just about exhibition itself. And when I went there last time, I went to Hong Kong also. One of those requirements in Malaysia, if you want to have a company in Malaysia, you need to have a manufacturing license. Manufacturing license, at one time we want to remove this. We said that, you know, our Tan Sri Rebecca look at this as a burdensome step, because we don't need this so-called manufacturing license anymore. And I went to UK, I went to Hong Kong to see what they do there. In Invest Hong Kong, they don't have those requirements. You want to come in, just come in and register in the country. You don't need, you have your own local council requirement. So why you want to create a redundant requirement similar to local council requirement? The manufacturing license is very much similar to the requirement set up by the PBTs. So you have PBTs in Malaysia, you have local, you know, MIDA requirement in a manufacturing license. But of course, my point is not about manufacturing license, because we can talk about that later. We are more concerned about how things was make it easy in the country to open up a business. But in Malaysia, we created, you know, many requirements one after another, and this is probably one of the reasons why we don't see many companies, you know, overseas companies set up in Malaysia, and more will prefer go to Singapore maybe. Whereas we are at the door of ASEAN, I think we should be a good place for them to come in, and we should be encouraging more company to set up in Malaysia. So with that, I think Lawrence, I think I've reached my time at the moment, maybe more, and I'm going to stop here. If there is a question, then I will entertain it. All the ideas and the suggestion that I put is a very personal suggestion. Please don't, if you don't agree with, don't put it on MPC. I think MPC not responsible for the ideas. I am one of the responsible for the ideas. So if this is something that you don't like to hear, sorry, I mean, just an opinion. All right.
Oh, thank you, Kabir. Well, I agree with you actually. I like it when you share the story about your daughter. Those are the kind of ideas that we like to have. You know, those are personal stories. And ideas are definitely what we need to grow. You know, in Malaysia ecosystem, we need vibrant ecosystem. Entrepreneurship needs a lot of ideas. So, you know, I think you should not restrict yourself from sharing them. I think MPC will probably be happy to hear more. Yeah. Yeah, but apart from the ease of startup, the one that you brought up, comparing UK, comparing Singapore, comparing New Zealand, for sure, I think that is one of the factors. I think that has very much related to you know, how the interest of starting up would happen. Apart from that, do you think there are other factors as well? For example, entrepreneurship probably needs a lot of capital, perhaps. The entrepreneurship development that you talk about, the MEDEC, are they currently giving any incentive to new startups?
Okay. You know, when you look at Malaysia, financial support.
Yes.
We in Malaysia, if you look at the World Bank criteria, you know, one of the criteria that in the World Bank is getting credit. We were ranking at one time #1 in the world. What does it mean? I mean, we are our financial support is there to get a credit. I mean, to get a financial assistance and things like that. So in terms of support, of course, now our getting credit is getting lower and lower, the ranking is. But we are there, meaning that we have a support system in terms of financial. But we're coming back to startup. You know, we do have a lot. I mean, if you ask me personally, if we talk about entrepreneurship itself, we have so many agencies provide some kind of fund. Sometimes you get lost into it. Why? Because it's sometimes overlapping, sometimes, you know, redundant here and there. I strongly believe that, you know, if Malaysia want to make it thing better in this startup scenario, and then we talk about the support financially, we need to really look back all the agency that we have on responsible for this, and then put it back accordingly. Because if, you know, it's the value chains of activity of entrepreneurship is long. So if you're talking about starting a business, and then let me think only about who I want to go to see. Do I have to go to SME Corp? Do I have to go to Tekun? Do I have to go to PNB? Do I have to go what? SME Bank? Or, there are so many of it. Tell me which one I need to go. And can you imagine the run around? For me, is that if we have one single, you know, door, yes, one single door, that if we go in that place, that this is for a startup, and then the initiative can be more compact, and the support can be more. That's why I said the one that I mentioned about the difference between Madrid, Malaysia, and Madrid in UK. They are different things. They are not just doing the exhibition. They are doing many things, like develop the entrepreneurs, but in a different way of their own coverage. So I would suggest, to me, if you tell me that yes, definitely financial support, you know, for companies is crucial. But again, that's not the only one. I mean, what make things piss off, I would say, definitely because of, you know, the trouble that you need to go all over the place, even to start a company. And you talk about the signage in Kuala Lumpur. You need to get approval from Dewan Bahasa. You see, any signage, so it takes some time. So until you get the approval for Dewan Bahasa for your signage, the City Hall won't approve it.
You may already miss the business opportunity window by the time you get it.
Look at it, 1.5 days. How can you do that?
We need to drastically change the process. You're absolutely right.
Exactly, this is what I'm saying, that we really need not incremental improvement, but we need to revamp. I was told that we need to revamp it. We just, I mean, to be fair, I would suggest that, I mean, look at the UK, look at New Zealand first. You know how they do it. You just study first how they do it, and then I'm sure Pemuda Group have looked at it already. But are we there to change it now?
Yeah, I think apart from this process of starting up, I think there are other things we should also change as well. Like, you know, how can we keep companies here after they have started up? You know, I know like certain countries, like Singapore, for example, they have a different tax regime where they have lower corporate taxation for new startup. They even give like you know, for the first 2 or 3 years, zero tax for new startups. So this kind of attraction, they attracted a lot of people to start, not only for residents. I was going to ask, the startup statistics that we have measured by IMD, are they measuring the startup by residents, meaning Malaysian, or non-residents, or mixed? Because if you're talking about the mix, the situation can be different. Like, for example, do you remember Malaysia actually founded Grab, but we can't keep them. They eventually moved to Singapore because they've got more vibrant ecosystem than Malaysia. So I think apart from starting up, there are a few other factors I think entrepreneurs are looking at, whether they are choosing Malaysia as an ecosystem they want to live in. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you look at it, you know, when I do the calculation earlier, I was curious about the figures that foreign, you know, there's a figures, a number of foreign company there. They break the foreign company numbers there. And I believe, and I look at the Singapore also the same thing, because the World Bank, I believe they took all of it, including the foreign company. I think including the foreign company. So that's why I like this year. I mean, for next year, I'm predicting like Singapore going to get better in terms of this number. You know why? Because situation in Hong Kong was bad at the time. Remember the
I see.
Crisis.
Yes, more there. Yeah, facing. Yes.
More there, and most of those people actually probably run away and set up a business in Singapore. And
I see.
You know, Singapore is an entry point to ASEAN, and same to Malaysia too. I mean, I think Malaysia is much better position because we link to through land easily.
Yes.
Yeah, why don't we capture this? Why don't we capture it? Why don't we make things easier for the foreign company to register? I mean, if in fact the scenario, when I went to even Thailand, the way Thailand do thing about, you know, open up, if you want to open a company in Thailand, they make it very easy for you. They make it very easy for you. You can even open your HQ in Malaysia, and then you open a company there without registering there. Also, no problem. They allow you to do that business there. So as long as you are linked with the PBTs, and the control is through PBTs. So in Malaysia, we have a central agency, we have federal agency, we have you know, the technical requirement from. This is again, I look at UK. You know, there's one initiative called Primary Authority in UK. The Primary Authority initiative, you know, the one of the initiative I was trying to bring to Malaysia last year. Let's say you want to open up a business in Manchester.
Okay.
you are actually living in London and you do not want to go there. You do not want to go there. You can even go to London Municipal and you can meet them. And as long as they are part of the primary authority group, you can even let them assess your proposal. They give you approval. You know, they give you all the approval, including the bomba requirement or whatever, the fire, everything given by the people in the London for the business that you want to open in Manchester. And Manchester have to accept this as I mean, as an rubber stamp, to just rubber stamp the approval given by the London. You don't have to go all the way to Manchester.
Wow.
For what? Yes, this is a very successful initiative. You just log into what they call it primary authority. My intention of bringing this thing is what they're creating situation to make it very simpler for business to start. And we are in Malaysia. If you go to Miri, said no, our Miri situation different. You go into Kuantan, different requirement. You understand? If I'm a businessman,
yes.
Yeah, I'm a businessman. I mean, imagine the thing that I need to go through. I will end up saying that myself working for somebody rather than being a businessman.
I think the authority responsible for approving startup, I think they need to go through entrepreneurship as well, because to start up is not easy. You know, they have tons of things to worry about, and yet you're not making their life easier. Yeah, that's true.
It's don't quote me, because it's the World Bank said. I mean, there's a positive link, is it? And I just proven it.
It is. There are a lot of things that are linked. I mean, like you just rightfully pointed out. In Malaysia, we have got fairly good infrastructure. We have very good ecosystem. Why can't we attract investors? Why can't we attract people to venture into startup?
Good question.
Plus, I know there are funding ecosystem available in Malaysia too. I heard venture capital is also a startup, right?
Yep.
Venture capital, the startup is increasing. This is a trend in Malaysia, and there are funds available, like 1.7 billion US dollars in a venture capital fund, just for startup. But until today, it's only half of the fund is being utilized. So, like you said, why are there not a lot of startup in Malaysia? There are a lot of factors, and those factors that you point out, they are so right. I think people need to realize it's not easy to start up. It starts from an idea, and how easy to get the idea killed all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why this indicator is actually a good reflection of the business environment in the country. So if you see that 2.4 is low, close your eye and imagine the situation in Malaysia, the business environment in Malaysia as compared to those countries in Hong Kong. Yeah, I personally, experience in Hong Kong. I know. I was surprised to see that. Just come in, just open up your business here. So we don't have those requirements.
Yeah, I also read the domestic trade statistics that talk about the startups that happen in Malaysia. I think nowadays there are a lot more online companies that are started up compared to physical shops. And one of the reasons they say is because the MCO period cannot allow physical shops to be open. Hopefully next year our ranking will be better, because a lot of people are out of job. Graduates this year, they are out of job. So, like you said, people go into new business because they are out of job. We probably will see a boost in the number next year.
Yeah, that not going to be good in terms of the environment, because
it's just one spike and then it'll come down.
To me is that we need to be taking a lot of effort. If you can see my ideas that I give it to you, I mean my suggestion, I'm putting the angles. One is the one of the organization that should be responsible to drive the entrepreneurship development, and then you need to have the source of idea for product development. For new product development, the best one is that you link with the research center. I mean, in Malaysia, last time I know only USM has some direct link between the research result that you have to the industry. So we should be linked industry with the research product. So in this case, for me, that the research result need to be linked to entrepreneur directly, so that they can venture into it to have an idea. And when we look at it in terms of process, the startup process, the requirement, the setting up the business, this is a burdensome to the industry. So we need to reform this regulation, the requirement and things like that. Why do we need the similar requirement just for the sake of collecting data? I mean, with due respect, some agency mentioned to us because they want to collect data. So they need to retain these so-called licenses. So it doesn't make sense. Why should you retain something like this when it should be making things simpler? That's another area. And then another area I said that look at the development from the grassroots, which is from the education system. So you have to make sure that entrepreneurship is something like, entrepreneurs is something that everybody want to be. I mean, I want to be an entrepreneur, not engineer anymore. I want to be a business so I can be successful and rich, is it? So we do that. But remember, the market in Malaysia, it will be saturated if we work only within Malaysia. So we need to work link between providing the support to other countries that we can market to Thailand, to Laos, or whatever it is that we have in our neighbors in ASEAN. So why these are the link that I'm suggesting that we need to look at it very comprehensively, not just one agency can resolve the problem. No way.
All
right.
I think hearing from your thank you for your insights. It's very lively and cheerful discussion with you. But I still like to say kudos to you for encouraging your daughter to start early. Because if you look back into the baby boomers or Generation X cohort, we are just told to get a degree, get an academic cert, and go to the workforce. We have a lot to lose because we spend our parents' money, the investment, to just get a certificate, and we just have to go and work for someone. We have everything to lose. So I think the mindset that you have instilled in your next generation to shift this, not to be reactive anymore, not to go into entrepreneurship just because we have a job. I think we need to be proactive. This is a very good message. Thank you for that, Kabir.
Yeah, I mean, when my daughter was planned to develop this brownies business, just a brownies business. If you come across the Mina Bake, they call it. They coming out with a brand name of Mina Bake. This brownies, if you go to any bakery, you can find brownies there. But how to make change of brownies? How to market it? I mean, she have friends, like artists and things like that. So she linked with the Instagram of these artists and things like that to market the product. And they use this so-called rap artist as a promoter for this. And that's where she got a market. She break to the market and she got order coming in. And of course, it's not a big numbers, but it's also good enough for her to to earn some income for her. So to me, that this is an alternative. I mean, apart from what you are doing, I'm studying, but you also can venture into business. Of course, we don't. Create again, as I say, as a company status that under Berhad, whatever. Because of these things, That's why for me, it's Berhad, Sendirian Berhad, the requirement of SSM need to be changed a little bit. Maybe I don't know. I mean, we need to make it more simpler in terms of requirements, you know. So not too costly for that matter. So I would say that if we do that, I mean, the choice that people will pick it up to go for Sendirian Berhad is more. And now I will definitely choose only partnership and proprietorship. In our case, it doesn't mean anything to the score in terms of the new business entity.
Hopefully one day our authority will change the process so that people will want to choose Berhad. Let me read out a few comments by our audience. Muhammad Wafi, he has a few comments about what we have discussed. I think the questions are more like his thoughts, and not so much like asking questions. But let me read it out. We have already addressed this. He talked about businesses. There are many processes and steps. These processes and steps, they make the entrepreneurs difficult to move forward. This is exactly what you have just talked about. And he also commented, the business density in Malaysia is not like other countries. The density here is not high because our Malaysia ecosystem here is not robust. Yeah. Why? Because there are many taxes. There are many layers of authorities. Like what you said, you have to go through this and this and this. You know, by the time you get approval, and there are many rules to be followed. So it's not simplifying the business process. So I think he agrees with you. These are the reasons why our numbers are still low. I hope, you know, the authorities can hear this, so that one day, you know, this will be different totally. Like I said, we are the door in ASEAN business countries. Why can't we be like Singapore?
I'm a bit puzzled over that. I mean, I agree with him on this issue. We have created a hurdle instead of creating support, you see.
Exactly.
Singapore is creating that support and make it simple. Why are we doing this? Because we have so many open office space available in Malaysia. We have so many.
Talking about space, we have advantage.
Yes, I mean, we do have a lot not been occupied now.
No.
But we cannot attract people to come in here. Why? I mean,
exactly.
This is a big question mark. I mean, when even you know, we created the zone for this, zone for that. But I think, to me, is basically it got to do with the, I would say, too many agencies responsible for it, and it created problem rather than you clouded it with problems. So that's probably one of the, because if you look at UK, I mean, this primary authority, you go only one place, it will do everything for you. And then one thing good about the primary authority is that, you know, when you deal with the person that you are familiar, you know him, you are from London, this guy from London authority, you are more trustworthy to this guy, even though you want to open a business at the corner of the country. So everything it make it simpler and supportive. And this is what I appreciate it, what happened in UK. And then I really look at it, the Open for Business program by the Madrid. Fantastic. I keep on coming back and say that, look, man, we are not talking about exhibition alone. We're talking about development, the development of market outside. How do we market the, you know, the product that produced by our company in Malaysia, and to that place? Of course, when you have this kind of link, you can sustain business in Malaysia. People will stay in Malaysia. All right.
Well, yes. Thank you again, Kabir. Apart from
do we have any
policies,
comments?
I think those are the comments that we received from Muhammad Wafi. Well, it's very enlightening to hear from you. For the audience, if you have just one message for the audience before we come to the end, what is your takeaway for the audience today?
All right. You know, for me is that all these indicators that we look at the WCY are actually it's not just about the numbers. It's about the story behind it. So in this case of new business density, the numbers are only reflect us what we achieve, but the scenario, real picture that dictate it is actually at the behind about the people who develop the entrepreneurship intention, the support system that we created. All this will provide the numbers that we want. We want a big numbers. So now, in fact, even for the agency, for me, is that why don't you come out with a requirement? I mean, this is a requirement that for those who are going to get a startup fund from government, automatically the requirement is that you must register as under Sendirian Berhad. It's not supposed to be the proprietorship or partnership or whatever it is. I mean, you got a fund from the government anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you provide the mechanism, the system. You probably have a central, company secretary or whatever it is, the requirement that we can simplify. So the process in it, somebody needs to look and simplify the process. But you can move that push. I would say push here those who are depending on the government fund to move into that. So you can raise the numbers. You can raise the numbers. So to me, is the indicators sometimes only give us the feeling like temperature today. When we go to COVID, we go to office, we need to take a temperature. Temperature only tell us our situation, but it didn't tell us what we do before this. What make we sick, what make we got a fever, why we didn't. So if we got a fever, it must be a reason why what we do earlier. So that's what we need to know. And for me, I'm just explaining my discussion today is basically explaining what is happening, so that when we get the data, hopefully we can change the scenario, then we can change the result. So again, as I said, this is my personal opinion, and I'm not the experts on this particular area, but I really much believe that the study have shown and the link between the business environments and the score. So I know this is a very technical subject, technical indicators. So there's probably not many questions that was raised by the audience on this. With that, I would like to say thank you once again to you for keeping me here today, and then to the audience and MPC, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Encik Kabir. We actually learn a lot from you. Like you said, this is a technical topic, but I can see you're actually applying the lean concept. Instead of pushing the people to become entrepreneur, you are trying to pull them with the leeway to make it easier for them to enter.
Yep.
Thank you for that. We are coming to the end of this presentation. For audience who have missed the presentation, you're going to get a chance to catch up on a YouTube channel. MPC has created a productivity and competitiveness channel. So do catch up with those if you have a chance to catch up with this. With that, I again want to thank the audience for listening and your question and thoughts. Thank you to our speaker today, Encik Kabir. We hope to see you again in the next round. We hope you find this webinar very informative, which I do find it. Until then, stay safe, happy learning during this time. We will see you again in the next series. Okay, Encik Kabir? I'll see you again.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.